Hello, good afternoon. It's lovely to see you. If you wouldn't mind just grabbing a seat for me, thank you very much. Welcome to the first of this afternoon's panel discussing finance. Now, I know this one is very eagerly anticipated. We're calling it the finance panel, but I think it's possibly easier to understand as how to get the right amount of money from the right people in the right place at the right time. That's exactly what we'll be discussing today. Now, this is not an easy matter, obviously. Europe's attention, the world's attention, is taken with so many other issues at the moment, but all of those issues need the finance. So it is that jigsaw, the financial jigsaw, that we will be talking about today. What do businesses need? What do governments need? The public and private sector? What do the money men and money women need to see? How do you bring everyone together in a way that, as we have been saying today, we can all thrive for the future? It's going to be a really interesting discussion, this. Shortly on this stage, we have an absolutely stellar panel of people who deal with these issues every day and will be sharing their thoughts, their experiences and their knowledge. But first, I am absolutely delighted to welcome our keynote speaker for this afternoon, the Deputy Minister of Finance of the Republic of Poland. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jurand.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here, and at the same time, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very honored to be here to talk about financing, but also in the context of innovation and also in the context of competitiveness of our economies in Europe and especially in Poland. And thanks a lot for one of our fundaments of our financial system for BGK or BGK Bank, which is very important source for financing and for contributing to the innovation production in Poland. As in the textbooks, the innovations are actually endogenous to the models. So this topic we'll be dealing today here during these 2 hours. It will be about financing the future, financing for the future, but boosting competitiveness requires additional funds. But first and foremost, it requires good rules. And what is one of the priorities of the Polish presidency? Simple rules. So simplification, it's one of the themes which is very much at the heart of both our presidency, but also our internal work in Poland. In the morning, I participated in another meeting with our social part, how to simplify the rules for the entrepreneurs and functioning of the companies in Poland, and the government takes it very seriously. And we are taking it very seriously also in Europe, knowing the facts which were recently, well, over last year, presented in a series of reports. And we can read both in the Draghi report that major investment is needed, and Draghi estimates it to be additional between 750 and 800 billion per year until 2030 and later as well. Which, by the way, it doesn't. He doesn't account it for rising defense costs and the defense investment needs. We also had a report from IMF, which estimates the internal barriers to single market as equivalent of tariff of over 100%, and you know that the tariffs are very much in the discussion, and we know that tariffs actually are harmful for growth, and the IMF shows that we have also our part to do in Europe. We've seen it in EU economy structurally underperforming for many years, and the problems were partly due to issues with financial intermediation. And we can see that at the end of 2023, the EU 27 share of global equity market capitalization was only 11%, which is quite low compared with the 45% for the US, of course, adjusted by the relative size of economies. And the EU share has also been in decline since 2009. At individual level, savers and investors are driven to invest abroad by the pursuit of returns and the need for portfolio diversification. And it's something what we need to address in Europe over next years. And the European Commission has been trying to address this for many years. We know the term CMU, Capital Market Union, for a long time. It proved to be maybe a bit too ambitious and maybe too complicated. Europe's problem with low level of investment and underdeveloped capital market are not only or not even primarily the result of regulation. And this is something we need to take into account. We need to mobilize the savings and to translate it into investment, into productive investment. And in this respect, I'm very happy to report you that well, I shouldn't do it, but it's of course the European Commission, but what I've seen, what was published like 2 hours ago, the Savings and Investment Union Plan strategy, which aims to improving access to savings and investment accounts, developing retail investment culture, giving retail investors the opportunity to support European strategic projects. And it's one part, and the solutions or the actions which the Commission has announced for the next years. As you know, normally with any strategy is like we have a schedule. Such things like a blueprint for savings and investment accounts or products based on existing best practices, increasing opportunities for retail investors to access suitable financial products, or increasing financial literacy. These are very important for Poland points on the side of savings, and I will come back to it later. And of course, in the Commission strategy, we have the investment and financing side, promoting investment in equity and alternative asset classes, making better use of EU budget to de-risk and leverage further national, private and institutional financing, improving attractiveness of capital markets, developing the instruments for securitization. So there are actions which are, there are directions where the Commission wants to go. And in this context, something what is very valuable for us in our eyes, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the objective of simplification, and the European Commission signals that it will focus more on how current rules are being implemented and interpreted rather than on introducing new legislation. I would like to repeat it, and it's something what is priority for the presidency. It's also something what me, myself, for instance, I'm running the trilogues. Yesterday we had another trilogue on retail investment strategy, and we're keeping on looking at simplification in the case of new legislation of proposed rules, but also on the existing rules. So this is the direction to go, to have simple, unequivocal, clear rules in Europe. And for the ambitious EU plan to work, it is in the hands of the member states to channel savings to productive investment. And now I would like to tell what we do in Poland. In Poland, we have been working on the reform of the capital markets very recently. Among the main things we want to change are the implementation of REITs, real estate investment trusts, development of framework for ETF, so passive financing, so that they comply with the European law and thus can be listed in Poland. Introduction of a new alternative investment fund adapted to the needs of private equity and venture capital. Elimination of barriers to investing in private market funds for domestic investors, such as pension funds in different ways, Alpha, PPK, and the like. Enabling brokerage houses to act as depositories of open-end investment funds, recognition of compulsory redemption of securities as an event causing a tax loss, increasing the scope of activities of the Financial Education Fund. So this is very direct relation to the Commission ideas of financial education and financial literacy. Strengthening investor protection to improve trust and the image of the market. So how the society views the market. Introduction of legal changes enabling an insurer admitted to trading in an alternative trading system to request information on the disclosure of the identity of shareholders. Simplification of the process and increase in the efficiency of handling the exercise of subscription rights on the Polish market. Introducing of changes to Polish regulators adapting to the definition of the financial instrument issued using distributed register technology to the requirements of European regulators. Introducing of transparent principles of market supervision in cooperation with the National Conduct Authority. And besides these things, I also see the space for further changes following this simplification drive and simplification discussions with so-called social side, so the representation of the entrepreneurs. That is happening these weeks, these months. Last but not least, it's worth noting that activities of already existing player on the Polish market, which help channel investment into Polish economy. I mentioned at the beginning one of such important actors, the BGK, Polish Development Bank, which is the only institution of the type in Poland. It's been an active and public and private sector in order to increase the potential of social and economic growth. It fulfills very important role inside Poland, but also what we will see in the future, it will also fulfill the role of development bank, and for instance, I'm also involved in setting up a special instrument for external assistance in the third countries, so which actually was passed in the lower chamber for those who follow it yesterday. So this is, yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you also for laying out the landscape, your vision for the future, what you see as the framework going forward. And that will be within that context that we now start to discuss finance. And we have a fabulous panel for you. I talked earlier this morning about having the right people in the right place to have the right conversations. So that is certainly what we have here in this room and on this stage. So first of all, please welcome to guide us through this discussion, Management Board Member at BGK, the Polish Development Bank, someone who leads capital investment and international cooperation, contributing to key financial initiatives in Poland and beyond. Someone with such a distinguished international career. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome your moderator, Jarosław Dąbrowski. Jarosław, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And you have put together a wonderful panel. So first of all, delighted to have some of the foremost experts in this field with vast knowledge of European investment strategies and financial policy. The CEO of the European Investment Fund, Marjut Falkstedt. Please come and join us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Come and take a seat. Now, bringing his expertise from top multinational financial institutions, absolutely delighted to say that in the room and joining us today, the CEO of the Warsaw Stock Exchange, Tomasz Bardziłowski. Please come and join us. Thank you. Allow me now to introduce an expert in private equity and venture capital, partner at Innova Capital and Vice President of the Polish Private Equity and Venture Capital Association. Ladies and gentlemen, Magdalena Pasecka. Come and join us. Thank you. Also with us today from one of Poland's unicorns. That's a company valued at over $1 billion. Please welcome the monitoring satellite company, ICEYE, and its Vice President, Joost Elstak. Come and join us. Thank you. I did promise an absolutely incredible panel, and there is still one more chair to fill. So we have an absolute powerhouse expert in renewable energy solutions now. Please welcome the Vice President of R.Power, Katarzyna Suchcicka. Thank you. Over to you.
Well, we started like in the old good Hitchcock film. So there is a death in the first minute and then there's more excitement. Hopefully there will be slightly different, but there will be a lot of excitement and a lot of good thoughts and good discussion today. I wonder who was in charge of electricity here, by the way. Anyway, well, obviously, we, again, in the name of BGK, we would like to thank all panelists for joining us. That's a very big privilege of having you today. We have a very good mix, I would even say perfect mix, between financial institutions, policymakers, and what is very important, real economy. Real means that you are working on the field, creating something new, creating innovation, and also making money for Europe. And that's very important. We will be also joined in this discussion by two very distinguished and honorable guests. I will introduce Anna Krzyżanowska, who is advisor to Task Force for Startups and Scale-Ups. Let me remind you that the new European Commission nominated a new commissioner, Mrs. Ekaterina Zacharieva, who is in charge of that task, which is completely related to our panel. So Anna, at the slightly later stage, we will be asking you what's up there and how fast you are. We are also waiting, I think he was here, but you know, he is back to the European Parliament, will be back soon. Member of European Parliament, Mr. Michał Kobosko, who is also member of Intergroup on Attracting Investment. That is a bit complicated name, but that means that he is in the intergroup representing development banks, and namely also BGK, and they are working on legislation to really speed up and enhance all matters which are very important to make sure that we are safe, we are innovative, and there is electricity all the time. Yeah, let's start with our. Of course, there will be a number of questions, I hope, from the audience. Oh, I see Mr. Kowalsko. Michał, can we ask you, to maybe get closer a little bit? Thank you very much. So we are packed now, and we can slowly start. First of all, I would like to introduce to you our good friend and a good companion and partner, CEO of European Investment Fund, Marjut Falkstedt. And the question to Marjut, we are working together on a number of transactions, a number of projects, is how do you see, from today's perspective, the priorities and the upcoming projects, products and policies to really boost up innovation? The other colleagues are waiting for us.
Thank you. Thank you. I think in particular today, we are talking about security and defense, I think. And it's an area, when we think about European Investment Fund, we have two types of business. It's about providing, let's say, guarantee support to banks and guarantee institutions so that they can lend more to SMEs, or we are talking about venture capital investments. And now today I would focus only on the venture capital part, please. And here, when we talk about innovation, we talk about basically about life sciences, we talk about space, deep tech, artificial intelligence, all types of digital technologies, and much of this is in fact very closely linked to defense technologies. We could call also defense technology. AI, artificial intelligence, can be used in many fields. Quantum computing, exactly the same. Space technologies, exactly the same. And what is very interesting, what we have done in the EIF, in particular now since a year, thanks to the European Commission as well, budget from the European Commission, own resources from the EIF, we launched a facility called Defense Equity Facility, 175 million, which had an interesting signaling effect on the markets, basically because venture capital funds were not really, let's say, focusing on defense technologies. As I said, it's about deep tech, it's about digital tech, it's about health tech, these type of matters. And then now, after 1 year, how we see the signaling effect in the market, how this has been moving on, and the thinking about the possibilities where basically defense technology is important has increased. And we see many fund managers now adapting their investment strategies to be more, let's say, more specific on what can be done. It can be about information technology indeed. And it's a kind of dual-use technology which can be used in a civilian case, but also in a military case. Very important. Now, what I wanted to say is that while we had done rather well in supporting our innovative tech companies with venture capital in the past, where we have not done well, we have not focused on their growth and their scaling. And we have been underfunding basically this, let's say, this space from growth of companies and the scaling up when they really can commercialize their products in whole Europe. And that is something now that we have to focus. We have started in the EIF a year and a half ago with the instrument which we call European Tech Champions Initiative. And with that initiative, we want to create so-called mega funds in European Union, meaning venture capital funds which have a size of more than 1 billion, who can really put the big tickets into our innovative companies. But it's a drop in the ocean where we need much more of that. What we have to focus now in the European Union is that when we have venture capital funds, we have to grow the size of the venture capital funds that they can really follow on the innovative companies. And we have to create many more funds in the size of between 500 million, let's say 300 million to 1 billion, so that we can create a momentum and an ecosystem growth that helps then all our innovative and smart companies out there. Thank you.
It seems that we will have much more and much more intensified approach from EIF. That is obvious, and it is very needed, by companies which are at the growth phase, especially to scale up also venture capital. We have representation of a very decent companies, very powerful, very European also. Some of them are also funded by our bank. Now, Joost Elstak is a board member of ICEYE. You were actually called already the unicorn on valuation, not on IPO, but hopefully soon you will also meet that requirement. Joost, tell us a little bit about your fascinating story and about the company, plus what you need from us to be even bigger.
Certainly, certainly. Well, thank you very much for that very generous introduction. Indeed, this allow me to sort of briefly explain, first of all, like what we do, because I always assume people know what we do because I do it every day, but of course you don't. So allow me to talk a bit about that. And then the other big question of this panel, like how did we raise the money? Like what approach did we really take? Some war stories on how we got where we are today. And I'll briefly talk about some barriers as well. So ICEYE is one of Europe's unicorns at the moment, on paper at least. We are a deep tech company, Polish-Finnish, with about 1,000 people. And what we do is we operate the world's biggest constellation of radar satellites. Now, I won't go into details on the technology and all and how that works, but what it allows us to do is to look at every place in the Earth much more often than any other company at the moment. And that allows a wide set of applications. But I think the key thing to take away is that we are a European deep tech leader here. And what we do effectively is we keep people safe, whether that is by providing the most detailed maps after flooding or a map of a fire, the forest fires, so that the emergency crews can get to the location where people need help the fastest. In Valencia, it happened in Eastern Europe earlier last year as well. Flooding in Japan, these type of applications. We work a lot with insurance companies as well. But also, of course, defense is an application for us now. The same type of technology that we build can be used to map a forest fire or movement across enemy lines. So it's a really wide set of applications, but they're all aimed at making information that helps keep people safe in the end of the day. And we will talk about dual use, I think, a bit later as well. But I think that's sort of the short end of what the company does. And I can talk a bit to how we raise the money as well, I think, which is quite interesting. We've been privileged, or we've not been unsuccessful in securing money to sort of chase our ambitions. And I've got a couple of points that are quite specific on how we look at raising funding. So the first thing, we've always been very equity focused rather than loaning. And we've always adhered to what we call the standard steps. So sometimes you see a company who wants 7.735 in a certain round. We've always been very specific about the standard volumes and the standard steps so that our investors know what risk they're taking and what the maturity stage of the company is. So like first round 2.5, 10, 30, 100. So that standardization helps our investors understand where we are as a company. That's one specific thing that's helped us. The other thing is diversification. So we have investors from Europe. We have them UK. I'm not sure whether you call it Europe nowadays, but I guess we all understand the context. Some from Asia, US as well. So there's a really broad support, both in institutional but also commercial. So we also have investors from the defense industry. So it's been published that Rheinmetall, for instance, is one of the investors in ICEYE. So we pick strategic partners that also invest in the company to help strengthen that base. So that's the second aspect. And the other more practical one, securing funds is hunting. It's like sales. You need to make a funnel, you need to plan, you need to go out there and hunt. You need to be very persistent. So it should be on the top of your mind and you should be chasing it like any other customer in that sense. I think these are key takeaways that we have on how we've been successful, at least over the last couple of years. And then the barriers we see, a lot of them were actually alluded to. I see a lot of changes, thankfully, so things I think are getting better. But the cliche is in Europe we are still a bit risk averse and consensus based. And as a Dutch guy, we're all about consensus there as well, right? But I think that gives an approach where we're kind of slow but certain, and I'd like to move more to an approach where we're fast, innovative, and yes, we fail sometimes, right? The acceptance of that, I think, is a key challenge for the way that we approach things in Europe. And the other topic, I think, is fragmentation. We'll probably touch upon that a little bit later as well, both in capital as in regulation sense. I think that's a continued improvement is always possible there. I'll leave it at that.
Excellent. A very good company. They are hunting us also for some funding. Okay, fine. That's a very good example of the European company, which was actually created because of European Union as United Europe structure, because the two guys who are behind the founders, behind the company, unfortunately they were not able to be with us today because they are hunting for procurements from the European companies, and it's rightly so, they should be there. They met, imagine, on Erasmus camp or, assignment in Helsinki. One guy was a graduate or was a student of the Warsaw Polytechnic, and another one from Helsinki Polytechnic. And there's a fantastic story what Europe can actually, provide us with, what can develop if it's well done and if it's done according to the best practices. Thank you, Joost. Now, we turn to another fascinating company. They also were hunting for funds, I have to be quite explicit, from us, and they were successful. So we are proud and privileged to see them on this panel. It's one of the biggest renewable energy factories in Central Europe, originally from Poland. Kasia, could you just tell us what was the sort of concept of that fascinating story, and where are you going now? What are the obstacles? What you need from us, not only with regard to funding, but maybe there are some other areas, of operational excellence you can take it from us and from the European institutions.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you very much for the question. So, as it was said, R.Power is basically a producer of electricity, and I'm really happy for the event that actually happened today, because basically it proves how electricity is important. And it's a base for whatever we do, for whatever innovation or conventional business that we are running is based on the society and every business that we conduct. R.Power is a Polish company that started more than 15 years ago in Poland, and is now spreading its business to other European countries. And we are producing or are about to produce electricity in countries like Italy, Germany, Romania, Portugal, and Spain. And it's quite unique because in the landscape of energy producers, that's the only Polish company that has been successful to scale its business model to other European countries. And I think that's one of the reasons that we have been able to attract financing from reputable reputable institutions that are funding our development, and then also are funding our projects or infrastructure in those countries, because we have been able to scale the model and prove the business model in other places, which is not easy. We are talking here about European Union, about competitiveness, and about security. So if we want to be competitive, what we need to scale our business even further and to grow our business, we need simplification. And I think this was one of the key message from the keynote speech by Mr. Minister. And simplification means that we need to deliver our product fast in order to get financing, and we need to make it bankable. We can do it. We have the know-how and we have the business model working. But I would say that if we want to be competitive in EU, we need to be competitive with the energy producers worldwide if we want to make European Union competitive. If we look outside, in China, in order to produce energy, you need 1 year in order to start production. In Poland, you need to have a quite complicated dance, not only in Poland, in European countries, between 5 to 8, even 10 years, in order to bring that product into realization and then financing, and to basically make it work. So what we need is the alignment, we need simplification of those procedures, and we can make it work. And we already have proved that we can attract capital from reputable parties.
Thank you. As you probably know, Poland is lagging behind the average European Union energy mix. We are having more than 65% of energy produced from fossils, and Unfortunately, that's not a very good information, but thanks to companies like R.Power, we are moving fast, and thank you for your efforts, obviously. Tomasz, I think both companies are very interesting candidates for you. What would you comment on that? You know, what to do in order to attract companies for the stock exchanges, not only in Poland, but Europe-wide, but also on the other side, what you require, what you expect from them to be sure that they will be well taken by investors?
First of all, I would like to thank BGK and organizers for inviting me to this panel, especially that I can do business right now with my panelists, which are, of course, perfect candidates for the IPO. Hearing what was said previously, I just want to repeat it, and perhaps from a point of investor and what we hear from investors who want to invest in Europe, in Poland. What they need is basically growth stories. And what you said, Marjut, is exactly the point. We need to help companies to scale. And we have a great example it that we can have European unicorns if they operate in a market that has no national barriers and there are not many regulations. But do they need to go to Cosmos to do it as ICEYE? So that's the key. We need to help companies to scale and to grow. And we hear from R.Power and from many others that there is a level when they see that further growth is difficult. It's difficult to do an M&A cross border. It's difficult because of regulations to enter other markets. So that's definitely something which can be and has to be addressed with harmonization and simplification. Because if we don't address it, you can quote Frederick Bastiat, okay? If goods or now services cannot cross borders, the soldiers will, yes? So that's something which is right now a shift of paradigm, and we heard so many times today we have no time. And it's such a pleasure to be here also today when, in terms of capital markets, there's a major milestone, which is announcement of a roadmap for Savings and Investment Union. And I'm so happy that this document has been published. I must say that, well, I didn't really have much time because it was just 2 hours ago to study it, but the first headlines look very promising with savings, the European savings, with investments, with supporting what you do with development banks and development entities, and showing how important it is to create ecosystems, to support and channel more money through AIF, through development banks, to create ecosystems, VC ecosystems, and then private equity ecosystems, and have companies which will have ambition to grow and to list, to use public financing, because also the public markets, not public financing, public markets and do IPOs. And we know that we have lots of money in Europe. There's 34 trillion in financial assets held by households, of which 11 trillion is held in cash and bank deposits, which is more or less 3 times versus GDP compared to US, and also almost 3 times compared to the countries like Denmark and Sweden. So if we would lower the 30% of the share of cash and bank deposits to the level of Sweden, to 15%, there will be amount of around 6 trillion, 6,000 billion euros, able for investments in various areas to increase our competitiveness. Just interest from this amount could be half of what Draghi is saying that we need to boost our competitiveness. So that's the way to look at things and how we can help. And there's another issue, very important, probably in 1 decade or 2 more decades, even more important than others, is the return on this money, return for long-term investments for pension savings. So there's money, and the Savings and Investment Union with the ideas how to attract retail investors to capital markets is actually the way forward. And here it's important to learn from the best, from best practices. In Europe, we have so many successful examples. We know that, well, one of the most developed capital markets are Sweden, Denmark. The largest company in Europe listed on markets comparable to US huge healthcare companies is Danish, Novo Nordisk. Swedish capital markets had over the last 10 years more IPOs, 500 IPOs than Germany, France, Spain, and Netherlands combined. So there are examples of what to do to do it. And I think we have to learn from examples. Also, we as Poles, we have very good institutional frameworks. With the help of AIF, we created the VC framework under the PFR ventures. BGK is developing also various frameworks of supporting companies. We have quite successful new pension system, which could be an example for Europe how to do it. So we need to learn from each other, support each other, and lower the barriers for growth.
Yes, we know, we Poles know, but it is maybe good to remind everybody that Warsaw Stock Exchange is actually one of the pillars of this great Polish success, tripling GDP in the last 30 years.
Can I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
As for today, the best performing market year to date, up 30% in dollar terms.
Worldwide. So, you know, there is a very good pool of experience which we can build upon, and I'm quite sure that with Tomasz and the team, and of course with the supporting staff and political support, which is absolutely needed to cut some dilemmas and to act fastly, we can make it. And at least one of those fantastic companies, if not two, will be, and dual listing is also acceptable, they will be listed on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. Now, last but not least in the first round of questions, Magdalena Pasecka, representing both Innova Capital, which is one of the best performing private equity companies, but also she is on the board, the Vice President of the Polish Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. Magda, what is your point? How sort of fast you are, and what you need to be faster in financing growth and innovation of the Poland, but also Central European companies, because I know that you are not only investing in Poland, but in the whole Central and Eastern Europe.
That's true. Everybody is talking about hunting here. Tomasz is hunting for the companies for the IPO. You're hunting for fundraising, for financing of your projects. Not very popular word now with the ESG and impact investing, but truly we've been hunting all the time for great European, Polish and Central European companies where we can team up with founders. Usually we are the first institutional investor in them, and we try to scale up the businesses, to globalize them. We know how to internationalize the sales. So that's what we've been doing. We have a lot of successes among the Polish association. Allegro, which was on the last panel. This is a great organization, the biggest Polish e-commerce platform, bigger than Amazon or other like international companies in Poland in their market. That was grown actually by 2 rounds of private equity investors with Mid-Europa lastly, IPOing that, and those are our fellow colleagues. Same for InPost. At the time where they were really in trouble, they got the money from Advent International and they grew, and they are a fantastic company taking over Western European companies. Also, Innova Capital, we teamed up years ago with Wirtualna Polska founders when that was a pure internet portal, and with the implementation of the financing, we've bought 14 additional targets, both in Poland and internationally in the whole region. And they are now the pan-regional champion, delivering 100 million euro of EBITDA to its shareholders who are the Warsaw Stock Exchange investors. So that's what we've been doing. But we're also hunting on the other field. We are constantly looking for financing for our funds. So we're raising the fund, we're investing into 10 to 12 companies. We develop them, we implement value creation levers, we innovate, we finance the R&D, we finance acquisitions and globalization, internationalization, but we need money for that. And sadly, there is little money, and hope I'm hearing there will be more money from the Polish institutions to invest in private equity. Because currently, like in ICEYE, we talked with Joost before, there is just one Polish venture capital fund investing in them, OTB. And in that fund, as I'm hearing, there are no Polish institutional investors. There is NASA fund, but not any Polish institution. Why was that? Because there was no like special programs in Poland. So we are looking with a lot of courage and optimism into the new program that is going to be implemented. We've heard about that 2 hours ago. That also there will be more money into the segment of the private equity in Poland, because that's the only segment of our economy that hasn't grown significantly for over 20 years. The same funds that have been there, they are also investing now. They are not really growing much scale because there's the same usually number of investors. And with the war at our borders, we really need more European money, more domestic money to be able to proceed with our investment strategy. We're also looking with a lot of optimism into the pension funds investments, because currently we have pension funds investing into us, and the pensioners from Western Europe are benefiting from investments because we are delivering double-digit growth on an annual basis constantly over the years. However, the Polish pensioners, they cannot invest through the pension funds into private equity. It's going to change, and we're looking to get their financing, obviously. So a lot of optimism.
Indeed. Well, we measured the gap comparing that, into other subsegments of the investment gap in Poland, and we measured and compared it to the other subsegments of the financial sector in Poland, and obviously investment funds, especially private equity, venture capital, this is the widest, the deepest in a sense. We have a pretty good banking, not about insurance. Also capital markets institutions are ready to speed up, but this is the least developed market, and it's a shame because actually the market consists of maybe 50, 60 investment funds, a very limited volume of funds available for investment. And this is something like, really the biggest challenge for not only for us banks, but also institutions and politicians, as well as we hope to be supported by European institutions, especially IIF and EIB, because this is very important. Just one comment. In the last few months, we had 2 extremely successful IPOs. Both companies listed on the stock exchange, they were grown together with the management team from the leading private equity institutions. That is a very good signal of the quality seal that, joining forces between banks, investment funds, European institutions, and stock exchange, will create this momentum for European economy, especially in the area of innovation. And it's not only, obviously, a very smart and technically complicated innovation, but these are also business models which are adopted to Central European or widely European needs. Thank you, Magda. We will come back to you with one nasty question later. Okay, so the first round is okay. We did it. Now I turn to first of our distinguished guests, to Anna Krzyżanowska. The story began 2 weeks ago when I met Katarzyna Zacharieva, the new commissioner for scale-ups, startups, innovation, and research. And she was unable to be with us today, but finally we got Anna. Anna, could you brief us where you are and how fast you go with regard to the objectives Katarzyna Zacharieva put at the front of her commission and commissioner?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. Indeed, the commissioner couldn't be with you today, and I can reassure you that she is moving very fast. Why do we need... No, that's okay, that's okay. Okay. So why do we need a startup and scale-up strategy has been coming out of this panel already. We do not have enough money. Our companies don't grow fast enough. Our funds don't grow fast enough. Our companies have to spend horrendous amount of time looking for resources, looking for funds. We can do better than that. It is still unclear, and it's probably a mutually reinforcing situation in which we do not have enough money, but we do not have enough companies that grow. So what can we say about this strategy itself? The strategy is needed because we need a whole of a government approach to it. Startups and scale-up come from different areas and sectors, and they share a number of frustrations. Impossibility of finding funds is one of them, but there's more than that. They have problems finding talent. They have problems finding resources and services. And they have problems finding markets in which they can grow their financing. So the Commissioner is given a task to create a framework, conditions that will be good for startup scale-ups. What does that mean? It means that innovative ideas, and there's a reason why this functions sitting within research and innovation, these innovative ideas need to become products, services, and solutions that are going to be in companies that are going to deliver energy and defense and the green and digital transitions that we've put as an ambition and the ones that Polish presidency put as ambition. We are talking to stakeholders. The Commissioner is meeting with stakeholders. We have a public consultation just closed. We also do a hackathon, so we ask the startups and scale-up to come up with the strategy ideas for us. And I can assure you that we do not only talk to the Brussels bubble. We know the limitations of that, and the Commission is very conscious of the fact that life beyond Brussels may look differently than the one we are getting in regular meetings. We also look at it across what the public sector can do, what academia needs to do, and what the private sector needs to do. And there's a message from me to all of you, because you are powerful people and you know that the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. Between 20 and 30% of public of investment into startups and scale-up is public. And it's very good. It's not going to disappear overnight, and it shouldn't, just to reassure you. But it can definitely be used better. It can be better used to incentivize the sources of capital as laid out in the investment Savings and Investment Union. We also need to get the academia to move out of their comfort zone, because the difficulty in getting the innovation, the IP out of academia and into commercialization has been plaguing us for the last 20 years. And finally, the message to the private sector. Well, the private sector in Europe, and I'm sorry to say that in this distinguished place where Polish business is being represented, is a disappointment. 20 years ago, we set up a 3% target for research and innovation funds. Public sector plays its part. The private sector does not play its part. Only half of quoted companies in Europe have any investment activity, and out of that activity, half of the portfolios are invested outside of Europe. Without private sector, we are not going to do this with startups and scale-ups. And what's more, the private sector needs it, because our innovation indicators are not exactly stellar. We are lagging behind in innovation. We need to be adopters of innovation much more, and startup and scale-up can deliver that. So I'm saying, and the Commissioner is very explicit about it, we cannot find excuses. We cannot say this is the member states or the Commission fault. We are all in this together. We need to move fast, and we need to make sure that whatever we propose in a strategy is not a laundry list of things that we would be doing anyway, but really a stretch out of the comfort zone with all the players on the market, starting from startups and scale-ups, via academia, via private sector, and via the public institutions.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. We cross fingers for you and for Ekaterina, for Commissioner Zacharieva. She is from Central Europe, so I'm quite sure that she has enough power to move things forward quickly. Thank you very much. We look forward for your valuable contribution. And now I think, you know, taking this advantage that we are running slightly out of time, I will ask our guests and panelists with one very simple, very straightforward question. And then finally, I will ask Mr. Michał Kobosko, our distinguished guest, member of European Parliament, to summarize with a little hope, you know, what European Parliament is looking for and what we can expect from you. So, Marjut, once again, given what you've heard, you know, this is a breed of the Polish technocrats, you know, the most successful guys and ladies, obviously, you know, in Central Europe. What are your sort of quick fixings, you know, and ideas? How can you help us in view of what has been even, you know, announced today, the policy paper on defense, also the declaration of the Union? A lot of things are moving around. What do you suggest?
Okay, as we have to attract private sector in supporting the growth of our innovation capacity in Europe, on the EIF side, we will do our utmost to be able to provide the necessary performance data on venture capital, private equity, private credit, so that the private sector institution investors can make the right decisions. So there's one excuse less, which is access to performance data. This is what we can do very quickly. And otherwise, I would really plead that we all work together with some type of sandboxing or de-risking instruments as well, to attract all types of investors into venture capital, private equity, private credit. Because I can tell you, it is good business, and it's supporting our innovation capacity in European Union. It's important.
Well, we're looking forward for that. You know, as we discussed, you know, there are very good examples that some European EU member countries are very good at pension fund reforms, you know, at stock exchange, and even, you know, funding the venture capital like French. But, you know, we need to have more coherent and institutionalized approach. So, you know, we are volunteering to help you and to support EIF and EIB, of course, other European institutions, because, you know, the central eastern heart of Europe is really, you know, important, and we can really do a lot to boost up growth of Europe. Now, Katarzyna, what do you think? What are the sort of quick changes you would expect from institutions, financial, regulatory, politicians, to really make the things, you know, faster and to avoid things which happen today, so electricity cutoffs?
In this question, you basically answer it, because to make things faster and actually to make them, right? Because we are, first of all, our goal is to scale our business outside of Poland to make it as mature as possible in other countries. It takes time. But if we have proven our business model and we have the know-how and we know how to make it work, we also expect that we have that trust in those institutions and that we can move forward and we can act together faster. Of course, from the regulatory point of view, we need the simplification, we need the lack of those barriers to enter those other European markets. And I believe that we will be successful. This company has a great potential, it has a drive, it has proven to work, and sky is the limit for us. So, thank you.
Excellent. We count on you. It's one of the uniqueness of BGK and other development banks in Europe that we can do both. We can give you money in terms of equity, but also we can lend you money as a debt, or we take your bond. So, you know, we are both on both sides of the coin, and hopefully it's gonna be, hopefully, unicorn, you know, sooner than later. Tomasz, 3 follow-ups from today's discussion.
Yes.
What do you suggest?
So we hear it everywhere, and at each panel, so simplification, and this can be fast. We saw how fast was it with Omnibus, very fast. But then more is needed. In capital markets, one of the key problem are different withholding tax regimes, and here the faster initiative is very important. So this is implemented on the member states. Harmonization of regulations, because we cannot really make those growth stories even bigger without harmonization. So that's in terms of simplification and harmonization, but also there are various initiatives regarding improving the markets, because we need to have capital markets to finance innovation, and we need a bit more of risk-taking culture. And here, the best approach would be to learn from each other. So, and this is what we can read in the Savings and Investment Union roadmap, to check the best examples, what is working. Well, savings account, let's look at Sweden. The VC ecosystems, France has done a lot with the TB reform. Poland is doing quite well with your support. The pension funds, 60% or 70% of pension fund assets are in 3 countries in Europe, which is Denmark, Netherlands, and Sweden. Poles has done a great example with the employee pension program, which is great. So look at what works and try to provide the framework or best standards, and then offer it to the countries, and then this is a work on the member state bottom-up level. And here what we've heard from the Minister Jurand from Poland is example of a proper act. There's as we heard, comprehensive reform on capital market, and this is exactly what needs to be done. So both top-down approach at the EU level, but also bottom-up. And bottom-up, very important, is to learn from the best and cooperate.
We hope to do so, and of course we are, as we are volunteering to support you with some projects which are aimed at revitalization of New Connect. Very important task, because this is something, what we need, the market we need to really list innovative companies.
Yes. So, for example, you know that there's a framework of SME growth markets in Europe. Almost each stock exchange in each country has such market. On our SME growth markets, which has a lower regulatory framework, we have 360 companies, but we have almost 0 institutional investors, which is a main problem in terms of corporate governance and etc. So we are right now discussing with BGK, and this will be my call, Marjut, to you. Okay.
So we're making deals today.
Not to invest directly, but to create ecosystem, fund of funds who will invest there. So this is important. Here we need some public support money, but with the help of private investors, co-investors. There's some idea with BGK, we are developing this, and we want to invite you.
Excellent. Look, we are making deals. It's very fashionable today, so that's why I think that it's a fantastic panel. Okay, Magda, that's nasty question from me. When you are going to make your first investment into dual-use technology?
Into dual-use technology? Yes. We are not venture capital, but we've been doing that, already looking at the company. But what is hindering us is that we cannot invest in defense, for example. But there are technologies where you can use as customer use, commercial use, and defense use. So what we've heard from Marjut, we hope that our new Innova 8 fund will have different strategy, and our investors will allow that we can actually pursue the dual use, because currently, if it's military and commercial customer, in that case, not necessarily we can. But yeah, if you're asking, probably with the new fund, 2026, first half.
Pretty soon. We're counting the days. Well, dual-use technology is obviously quite complicated as such, but it also brings synergy between 2 priorities of European Union nowadays. First, defense, and second, innovation. If we mix it up, if we make a best usage of that, Europe could be really competitive, and we can really sell those products and services worldwide. We have at least a couple of companies of that kind in our portfolio in BGK, and they are doing great. Of course, not only because of the geopolitical situation, but defense sometimes is an ultimate, absolutely very valuable element of driving up innovation. Joost, what we can do to make sure that you stay European?
This is a good question. Let me start by saying that it is, of course, our deep wish to stay really true to this Polish, Finnish, and European heritage of the company. This is really important to us. But at the stage where we are as a company, I mean, for the next round, we'd be looking at like a 250 million euro type round. And then, so what do we need for that? Well, give us a more unified, high liquid market. Give us more options in Europe for investors that can handle these type of slices and investments. Give us a bit of an easier process. And then we will deliver, I think, from our end. There's no doubt in my mind that we could then grow and stay European and stay successful. And yeah, I think that's sort of, I can't make it any shorter than that.
We hope that you will stay with us, because that would be a shame if Europe would be unable to keep companies like you. We will be working hard in this panel, but also beyond that, to make sure that companies like you guys will stay in Europe, on the European capital markets with the European investors. I just read on plane that when coming to Brussels, that more than 300 billion euro of European citizens' money are actually pushing up and now pushing back, you know, this very, very big phenomenon of the Nasdaq and other American stock exchanges, because we're not talking only about the stock market, but also about crypto market. And 300 billion money is actually helping Americans to be great again, instead of actually, you know, working for European to be very good. So, you know, hopefully part of the money will come back and will stay, and it will invest in you. So I think, you know, we are approaching to almost the end of the panel. This screen is switched off. I don't know whether we are out of time, or maybe another electricity cut. Katarzyna, make sure that you understand why. But really, last but not least, is our good friend and companion, because he's helping us on Intergroup to present European banks, European development banks, and to also fight for interests of European citizens in the best way. Michał Kobosko, Member of Parliament from Renew Europe, representing Poland. Michał, bring us hope.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much. And I want to thank the panelists for the inspiring discussion. Well, it's, as you see, it's never perfect in Brussels. Downstairs in the basement, if you like, we had no electricity. Here on this level, we had a lot of energy and solar energy, a bit too much of a solar energy. But this is not about to complain. We are never happy, although you asked me about, you know, offering you some hope. Well, frankly speaking, I do not believe that we lack hope. We are Poles. We are always optimists. We always hope for better. My favorite quote is, and I'm sure you know it, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it's not the end yet. And I believe so, and I believe this is very Polish, even though I took it from this famous American movie about the Indian hotel back in India. Anyway, we are optimists. We do have hope. And we also have money, as we heard in the panel. The money is here. The money is in Europe. It's just that until now, we did not have a good idea how to use this money. And therefore, we were, in a way, pushing our companies, the best ideas, the best companies, the best talents, to go and search for funding and development elsewhere. That was our huge mistake. I'm also saying this as a politician, as a policymaker. We have to stop it. Somebody asked today if it's not too late. I believe this is like 5 to 12 when we look at the watch. 5 to 12 before it's really too late for us, for our industries. Obviously, we have lots of fantastic ideas. The two companies represented here. These are great ideas, great talents, great business plans, and we love them. We have to support them. But for many industries in Europe, this is almost too late. And even though we have great sources of funding, like this, the stock market, the development bank, the European funds, the private equity firms, many industries are struggling, and we have to help them. So this is why I believe that this is really, it's not too late, but still we have to be really quick. We have to be really fast. This is how I understand my obligation, my job right now, that we have no time to waste before it's too late. I believe that we will be successful as we were and are in Poland for the previous 35 years until now. We will be successful in Europe, but it needs a lot of efforts, a lot of heavy work. Look, all the papers are on the table. All reports are available. Draghi report, Letta report, Minister report, the Clean Industrial Deal, the first of a series of omnibuses is here. Today we had another plan on defense and so on. So the papers are here. It's just the question how we could and should implement them and put them in the real life. Because otherwise, yes, finally we would lose hope as well, and we cannot afford it. Thank you very much for the discussion from my side. Thank you very much for inviting me. Well, back to you, Jarek.
Thank you, Michał. Yeah, I was quite sure that the hope will be with us through you. It looks like, quite obvious, knowing you very well. Thank you, Michał. Instead of actually I have one page to summarize my marketing. Expected me to speak up about that, but I think I will just miss it. And instead of long summary speech, I will make two quotations. One from Plato, and it is as simple as that. Necessity is the mother of invention. I think we are in interesting times, 5 to 12, according to Michał, and I think being in Kiev 2 weeks ago, it's even 3 to 12, definitely for Kiev. And we have to speed up. And the second point, which is also quotation, this time from Baron Pierre de Coubertin. It's a motto of the Olympic Games, and it is in Old Roman, Citius, Altius, Fortius, or in English, faster, higher, stronger. And in Polish, szybciej, wyżej, mocniej. And that's it from us. Thank you very much. It was a complicated panel, but it was not a bad panel. Thank you.